Today is the last day. And what is it that we're taking back with us? Was it just entertainment for 5 days, or is it the beginning of a wonderful journey that we are undertaking? So what did we start with? Do you remember? On the very first day, we started with the thought, what does the Bhagavad Gita do for us here in Mumbai in 2005? So, what did we start with? The Bhagavad Gita helps you to transform from an ordinary mortal human being into an extraordinary person. And for which, what do you need to change? Your thinking, your thoughts. Today we are entertaining enervating thoughts, small thoughts, petty thoughts, and therefore we become limited, small individuals. You have to think big. And the moment you change your thinking, your entire personality transforms, the world in which you live changes, the whole thing changes. And how long does it take? Not very long. So you have to refresh your mind with fresh ideas, with new thoughts, with invigorating thoughts. But our policy is we've all become a generation of conformists. To think differently is considered taboo. How can you think differently from the majority? And the majority must necessarily be mediocre. So once you become a conformist, from making the laws, you bow down to them. From looking at solutions, your focus is on problems. As borrowing cricket terminology, because there's cricket all around here, you worry about getting out rather than scoring runs. Your focus is on the fielders, not the gaps between the fielders. And so the next challenge becomes, you grow weary of battle. The next challenge becomes insurmountable. So it's all in the mind. And what has transformed the Indian cricket team in a matter of days, from a losing team, from a team that was totally disparate, there was no unity between them, there was no team spirit, nothing. Now it's a completely different team. What you need to remember is that the players are more or less the same. The players haven't changed. It's the thinking that's changed. So the top stars in any field begin to stagnate when they allow, or when they don't allow, fresh thoughts to come in. And so it's very important that you keep an open mind. It's very important that you expose yourself to these higher values, not once in a while, not occasionally, but every single day. And if you don't do that, the decline begins very fast. It's like, the city of Mumbai has an energy, has a vibrancy, has an activity and dynamism which perhaps other cities in India don't have. So when you move from Mumbai to another city, you live there for a while, you start slowing down like them. And then when you come back to Mumbai, you understand that, oh, I've slowed down. So it's like this. When you don't expose your mind to higher values, you degenerate, and that is, the slowing down is almost instantaneous. There's a movie called The Legend of Bagger Vance. It's an outstanding movie it's a Hollywood movie. But it's about a golfer who's allowed himself to degenerate because of his negative thinking. He's an outstanding golfer. He goes to war, comes back, and something goes wrong in his mind. And he degenerates. He doesn't pick up the game again. And then there's the depression after the World War, after the First World War. There's this depression, and there is an attempt made in Savannah, in the southern state, to revive golf. And so there's a competition. And this young man, his name is Arjuna. Arjuna. It's deliberately made like that, Arjuna, to sound like Arjuna. And his guru, the caddy, his name is Bhagavan. Yeah, this is not my concoction, that's how it's been deliberately made. And the producer of the movie is not an Indian, is Robert Redford, an American. So, when the competition is on, he is the local hero. And all the people are rooting for him. They want him to participate because who wants an outsider to come? And that's when his first answer is, I've lost my swing. I've lost my form. I've lost it. To which this guru, he just walks into his life, the caddy. You understand what caddy, golf you understand? Caddy is a guy who carries around your golf clubs. So the caddy comes there and says, he presents his own life, the whole situation, from a completely different viewpoint. And this is what we mean by refreshing thoughts. And that these new thoughts make this man stop and think. For the first time in several years, he's begun to think. Because when the degeneration starts, he starts drinking, he becomes almost an alcoholic, he's a waster. And here comes a person who shows confidence in him, who tells him that, look, you haven't lost your swing, you can regain it. And he introduces the concept of a higher ideal. He says, look, okay, even if you don't want it for yourself, do it for the people of Savannah. Look around you. These people adore you. These people admire you. They love you. And they want you to win. And at some stage he gets insulted. This is the worst, You allow petty little stupid things to come and interfere with your mission in life. Somebody comes and insults him and he decides to give up and he's driving away. He's given up. He tells the caddy, he says, look, you're jobless now, you don't have anything to do because I've decided to quit. And as he's driving away, he sees the public and the adoration and the confidence that they have in him. And he then realizes that he has an obligation. And that's when he begins to regain his swing. And it's a wonderful movie. So the Gita is all about that. Arjuna has lost his swing. He's given up his bow and arrow. And so have we all. Every one of us is so talented, so gifted. Every one of us is born with a particular mission in life, a particular gift to contribute to the world and make the world a better place to live in. And all that you and I can think of is, oh, this fellow insulted me and that fellow ditched me and this happened and that happened and my neighbor is against me. That's all. You can't think beyond the tips of your noses. Anybody who sets aside all of this and fixes a higher ideal, has a vision and works for it, by God, what a difference it makes to his life and to the life of everybody else. The few people, you don't need very many people to tip the balance. You need a handful of people. And these handful of people, if there are 5 people in this auditorium who will leave today with a higher vision, believe me, the complexion of the country will change. Complexion of the world will change. This is the power of the thinking. But we are so scared to leave the safe confines of our limited, petty, silly thinking. And the moment a higher ideal is presented before us, what do? We give it up. Because we say, no, I'm like that only. I can't change. This is not the dignity and prestige of a human being. A human being is made to not only change, but to bring about change. Be the change agent, not the victim of change. So if you are not a change agent, you will become the victim of change. You have no choice. This is the only choice available. So, how do you live life is the question. And the Gita in the 5th chapter, which we did 2 years ago, brings about this wonderful concept called Padmapatram Ivambhasa. How must you live your life? A sannyasi is one who's not removed from life. A sannyasi is one who doesn't give up living. A sannyasi is one who lives life like the rest of us. But the difference being, he lives life like a lotus leaf in water. Padmapatra, lotus leaf, ambhasa, in water. Have you ever seen a lotus leaf in water? You know, the problem is in this city of Mumbai, other than concrete buildings, we don't see anything. But those of you who have seen a lotus leaf in water, it is born in muck, it exists in that water, and it dies in the water. But right through its existence, it is not even touched by the water. Why? Because it has a greasy surface that protects it from the water. So it remains immaculate, it remains pure right through its existence. Krishna says, a sannyasi is one who lives life like that. He's born in this world, he transacts with the world, he interacts with the world, he acts, he has relationships, he has intellectual ideas and ideologies, but right through his existence, he lives life like this lotus leaf in water. He's untouched by any of it. You remember the insulation that we were speaking of yesterday. And how do we live life? We live life like, what is that? Double-sided sticky tape. One side is bad enough, the double-sided, that means wherever you go, you get attached. You get bound, you get stuck. Even here, someone came and told me, what a pity, is the 5th day. I didn't even realize 5 days had passed. Means what? You got attached. But don't get detached so quickly. You've got a few more hours to go. You start business, you get attached to it. You get job, you get attached to it. You get married, so don't talk. Complete destruction. You have children, then superlative destruction. Destruction in terms of attachment. So when you get stuck to objects and beings around you, you lose your freedom. You get weighed down by your, not by the people around you, but by your wrong association, wrong identification, the wrong relationship, which you have established. It's nobody's fault except yours. That shift from this double-sided sticky tape to lotus leaf is the entire spiritual journey. And once you get to this state, at least once you get the taste of what detachment is, then your body, mind and intellect, which has now become a prison, the very instruments become vehicles for self-transcendence. And it becomes a wonderful life. A wonderful life unfolds before you because the same body which has bound you today, the same mind that has completely finished you off with attachments, the same intellect which is so full of prejudices and preconceived notions, now gets freed to explore into higher realms. And then what happens? The first thing that happens is your contact with the world, your relationship with the world, your interaction with any aspect of the world becomes free from friction, free from stress, free from pressures. Today you experience that pressure. The moment you embark on the spiritual path, it's not that you stop living life. Life becomes free from friction. The next thing that happens is your thoughts shift beyond the world to that which is transcendental, like Buddha. See, we tend to believe that it's only when you have a problem, only when things go wrong in your life that you turn to religion. Many years ago when I was inspired by the spiritual path and used to go and talk to people, they first look at me in complete amazement. I was much younger then. And then look at me and say, what is your problem that you have taken to this field? You don't need to have a problem. Buddha had everything going for him. He was the heir to the kingdom, he had wonderful parents, he had a beautiful wife, he had a son. But that mumukshatva, that urge, the thoughts shifted beyond the world. And then, please understand this, once you get this, once the bug bites you, you can't go back to materialistic living. You just can't do it. However difficult it may be, and it is difficult, because you always feel the drag of the senses. You feel weighed down by desires. And as you proceed, you always cast fond glances to your erstwhile life and say, how nice it was when I was going to nightclubs and discotheques and parties. But you've passed that. It's as ridiculous as after becoming an adult looking into your childhood and saying what fun I had in the 3rd standard in school. Wait, yes, you had fun, but you can't go back. You can only move forward. And as you proceed on this path, you completely shift to the 4th plane of consciousness. And this movement to the 4th plane of consciousness is like when you are awake now, and particularly if you've had a pretty rough day, after some time you'll find the environment is so conducive, dim lights, air conditioning, just right air conditioning, fortunately today. And the rest of it that you tend to doze off. And when you doze, you're dozing off maybe for just 2 minutes, but then you have created an entire dream world and a dream experience which you believe has lasted for a fairly long time. And what do you dream? You dream that you just heard that a gentleman won 1 crore in this, KBC2. So that's going on in your mind. These undigested thoughts in the waking world come up in the dream. So in the dream, right now when you're sitting here, 2 minutes that you dozed off, you project a dream in which, what's happened? You are a contestant in KBC2, you've gone there and you are sitting there and you you go through all the questions, you sail through them without taking even one lifeline. And you hit the jackpot, 2 crores you've won. And you're shaking hands with Amitabh Bachchan and you're taking the check and you're so overwhelmed because in your life you have never seen a check with that many zeros. So you're so overwhelmed by the check that you trip. Where is all this taking place? In the dream. You trip in the dream, and then what happens? You wake up. Now, extend this, just extend your imagination a bit. Having woken up, with the knowledge of the waking state, if you were to re-enter the same dream, which doesn't happen, it's not possible, but we're just positing it. Suppose you were to re-enter the same dream where you've tripped and you pick yourself up, look at the check, look at Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, what would you do? Would you be excited? Would you say it's all a dream, you can keep the check and walk out? No. What would you do? You'd just go along with the dream. You take the check, you go and encash it, you use the money, you enjoy yourself, you throw a party, you do everything, you play the rules of the game. With one difference. What is that difference? You're detached. You're not affected by any of it. Why is it that you're detached? What gives you this objectivity with reference to the dream? Knowledge of the waking. If you did not have knowledge of the waking before you tripped, what was your experience? You were so excited, so, you were subject to the ups and downs of the dream's world. A minute later, when you have knowledge of the waking and you have re-entered the dream, you understand that everything in the dream is worthless. That check for 2 crores in the dream state cannot be converted into the currency of the waking state. With reference to the waking state, The currency of the dream state is zero. This is the state of realization. This is the experience of a realized soul who's moved to the fourth plane of consciousness and comes back to us. He lives like us, he eats, he works, he experiences the joys and sorrows, the ups and downs of life like any one of us. The only difference is that he is not hit by it. He's not affected by it. He doesn't get crushed by these experiences. Whereas you and I get crushed by the slightest thing that goes wrong in our lives. And when you get hit, you must understand this is part of life. You cannot escape these happenings in your life except by only one method, and that is waking up to the fourth plane of consciousness. So what he says is, get inspired by Krishna's life. Krishna went through life exactly like the rest of us, but nothing touched him, nothing affected him. Nothing could affect his cheer, his dynamism, his high spirits. Now, because we don't have high spirits, we have to borrow spirit. So, in the Kathopanishad, now you might think that this is the exclusive privilege of a few highly sattvic people, the sannyasis who are meditating in the Himalayas. No. There is no exclusivity about Vedanta, about the fourth plane of consciousness. It is available to one and all. You must just want it, and you must be prepared to pay the price. So in the Kathopanishad, he says, Nachiketa attained Brahman. Nachiketa was a child, a young boy, who with the courage of his conviction approached Lord Yama, the god of death, for Brahma Vidya, and had the consistency and hard work to go through with it, till at the end of the Kathopanishad, it is said that Nachiketa attained Brahman, and then they add, so can anyone else. And this is so encouraging for us that we will, you see, the problem is, if you think that it cannot be done, if you think that it's difficult, you won't even try. And that's what's happening to all of us. You come here and you say, oh, very nice, 7th chapter of the Gita. When are you taking 8th chapter? That's all there is. How many of us say, let me go back and implement. Let me go back and put it in my life. Even if I can take one step forward, it's still a step forward towards that end. And then what you need to understand is, in order to achieve that, the key is the two words, samam, equanimity of mind, and the second is sarva bhuta hite rataha, the ability to rejoice in the welfare of all beings, the ability to engage in the welfare of all beings. This is something that we don't have at all. You see a person suffering, how can you not feel for the person? Just feel. You don't have to do anything. Just feel. And you see someone who's doing well, how can you not enjoy, how can you not participate in the person's happiness? If you don't have these two, which is calmness of mind and sarva bhuta hite rataha, the ability to feel a sense of oneness with people. See, these two qualities are not only the end, this is the test of perfection, but it also is the pathway. As you go along in the spiritual path, you can gauge how much you've progressed by these two qualities. Then comes the understanding. So somewhere down this journey, you have to be able to understand that Atman is something that pervades every single transaction of yours. Every moment of your existence is supported by Atman. Without Atman, you're totally disabled. And a story in the Kenopanishad, the last chapter of the Kenopanishad, gives a story. And that story gets this message across. The story is that the gods and the demons fought a battle. There was a huge war between the gods and the demons, the gods in heaven and the asuras in hell. And in this battle, the gods won victory over the demons with the help of Brahman. Brahman, God. But when you win victory, you tend to forget all the people who helped you gain that victory. And so did the gods also. The gods, when they won the victory, they call, when you win something, what do? You call for a celebration, you throw a party, and during the party, they completely forgot Brahman's role in this whole episode. And they were celebrating, they were congratulating each other, they were narrating incidents of that battle and war, and Brahman decided to teach them a lesson. So at a party, what do? Bottoms up. So when this bottoms up was going on, Brahman appeared in the sky as a yaksha. Yaksha, an apparition. And suddenly the god stopped short and said, my God, what is this? The fact that they saw something that they did not know was cause for concern, because the gods were supposed to be all-knowing. None of them knew what this apparition was. So they decided to send an emissary to find out what it was. And the first representative they chose was Lord Agni, the god of fire. So Agni approached Brahman, this yaksha. And as Agni, you understand, is a whole element of fire, blazing fire. When it approaches you, you understand it's fire. But here, the yaksha had the audacity to ask Agni, who are you? That itself deflated Agni terribly, because he said, see, it's like the Prime Minister appearing here and suddenly you turn around and say, who are you? You can't do that, because everyone knows what the Prime Minister looks like. So Agni is something that you know. Yaksha says, who are you? So he swallowed his pride and said, I am Agni. The next question shattered his ego completely. He said, what do you do? What is your vocation in life? He said, I can burn the whole universe. So the yaksha placed a trinam, a blade of grass, before Agni and said, can you do me a favor? Can you please burn this for me? Agni took one look at the yaksha and says, this guy is incorrigible. So he knew that he could burn anything. He released only a few calories, thinking the whole thing will turn to ash in a few seconds. What happened? Nothing happened. The temperature of that blade of grass didn't go up by even 1 degree centigrade. So by now he was mad. He released all his energy. Still nothing happened. He decided to run away from that scene, so he came back, Agni, and told the other gods, he says, I don't know what that yaksha is. So they decided to send another god. The next one is Vayu. Vayu, wind. When wind approaches you, it's like Hurricane Katrina approaches you, this is miles away, you understand it's wind. This yaksha again had the audacity to ask, who are you? So Vayu said, I am Vayu. Again, what do? I can toss the planets around. So he placed a blade of grass before him and said, can you blow this away for me? He tried. Nothing happened. The blade of grass didn't move 1 centimeter. Tried again with all his might. Still nothing happened. Vayu came back and told the other gods, I don't know what that apparition is, what that yaksha is. Then they realized that, look, this is not an ordinary thing. It requires someone with greater capability. So they sent Indra. When Indra approached the yaksha, this time there was a difference. Indra approached the yaksha with humility. And when Indra approached the yaksha with humility, that yaksha disappeared. This is the end of that chapter. And in the place of yaksha, appeared this resplendent, beautiful Uma. Uma is the daughter of the Himalayas. And Indra asked the question to Uma, so what is it that was here before you came? This is where it's the end of this chapter. The answer to this question is given in the next chapter. All this is significant, that's why I'm telling you. And the beginning of the next chapter, Uma tells him, that which you saw here was